Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Kyle Juice Michalski, Quinten Q Krzysko, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears are 2-2. And we're happy about it. We're feeling good about it. The Bears battered the Rams today. Maybe battered's a strong word, but I'm feeling it right now. My name is Quinten Krzysko. I'm joined by the one and only Ron Luce. Ron, how you doing this evening?
Q, I'm good. I am excited about the win just as you are. I'll tell you what, a dub's a dub with this Bears team right now. I have a lot of optimism, but I have a lot of critiques as well. We are going to get to all of that here, but I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. So first things first, in the comments, happy Sunday. Hey, everyone, from Daniel Barry. But anyways, first things first, we want to give a general summary of the game and just our general thoughts on it. So we're going through the first half, and it's like, okay, 5 yards punt, give up a field goal, three plays punt, give up a field goal, 8 plays punt, then force a fumble. We're down 6-0 at this point. This was a big spot in my mind where, the Bears had just not really done enough. I think they got some penalty yards, then a big sack, and then it kind of blew up the drive. And they had to give the ball back to the Rams. And it's like, you give up another score, you're down 2 scores at this point because it's 6-0, right? And that's where Montez Sweat comes up huge, gets this big the sack on Stafford, first play of their drive. So he gets the ball right back to the Bears, 16 yards from the end zone. And this is where we get the special play, right? Bears get right up on the goal line, and they get heavy. Doug Kramer, all-pro fullback. Clearing the way.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know how effective. Like, I didn't see where Kramer actually hit in there, whether he actually blew anything open or not. It was just the idea of like, we're going to bully a little bit here. We're going to do whatever we have to do to punch this thing right up the middle.
I think it's principle, Q, just like you said, right? I think it's principle at the end of the day. If you are going to be big swingers in the run game, which they desperately need to be right now because we've seen the zone fail time and time again over the first 3 weeks of the season entering week 4 play, it was nice to see them get heavy, move people, and just do what's easy. Power football is fun, man. You know what, Q? I think there is something going on with the Bears organization where the ancestors of Chicago Bears fans say the only way you can win football games is by pounding the rock, playing good defense, and playing good special teams. And that's what we kind of saw today. You asked for initial general thoughts on this game. This was an old-fashioned Bears win, but with good quarterback play, albeit maybe on the conservative side for a lot of people. I think overall over the course of the day, probably the best called game, especially in the second half of the season by Shane Waldron. But in addition to that, being able to kind of feel out what's going on with the Rams defensively and actually start to put together some drives that get them some points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, they get that touchdown, then they get, a missed field goal, a little bit of nice luck there from the Rams. Field goal of their own going into half. They didn't trail the rest of the day. It was after they got that touchdown, it was all good vibes from there. The second half, they come out with 2 straight touchdown drives. 2 drives, 144 yards across 17 plays for that between the 2 drives and 14 points. Like that's what we wanted to see, right? That's what we've been begging for. And you had some big Caleb Williams throws in there for it. Not as quarterback centric as we might want to see, but you know what? Right now, the best thing to get the quarterback going, in my mind, it's like you're alluding to, that power run game. Because you start to be able to do that, it opens up everything else. And I think that there was, going into this game, there was what defenses were giving the Bears was like, we're not going to let you throw. Why would we let you throw?
You have the better weapon to throw, and that's the case, right? The Bears had failed to establish a run game. I think a lot of people, a lot of football fans fail to understand, like, establishing the run game is a huge part of being successful for any quarterback. It doesn't matter where you are. People might be like, well, the Patriots were never successful in the run game. Yes, they were, but they spread it out over 5 players, and that's why nobody ever rushed for 1,000 yards. They did it by committee. But nonetheless, you need to establish the run game. You can see when the Bears do that today, it opens things up in the pass game. And when, like you said, Q, when there's nothing that you fear in the run game, you'll say, okay, we'll drop 8. Show us you can stop us from what we're doing right now. And I'll tell you what, the Bears were able to pound the rock. Swift had an unbelievable game in both facets, both in the run and in the pass game. And I'll tell you what, I think you look at Seattle over the years, those teams were always dominant when the running back was having a good season. The lead true tailback.
Mm-hmm.
A good game from Swift today results in a win, and it's the best the Waldron offense has looked in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, so just to get in the comments here, we have Scott mentioning that Tom Thayer actually predicted the interception that wasn't an interception from Brisker that forced the Rams to kick the field goal on their second drive into the Bears territory, which impressive from Thayer. But where I was going at first with that was this O-line looked like they practiced the run concepts that they ran this week. And that's the first time this season that they have looked like they knew what they were doing as a run blocking unit. And it's incredible how far that can go. Even like I was talking in like group chats and stuff during the game, and it was like, this Rams O-line isn't better than the Bears O-line talent-wise.
No way.
There's no reason this Rams O-line should be playing better than the Bears O-line, besides coaching, besides familiarity with the playbook, with the system, with the plays they're running. And I felt like today we saw a lot more of that, of them just executing what was called, probably because the thing that sticks out to me, there was a quote during the week from Mercedes Lewis that was like, that said something about running plays that they have practiced in the last month.
Yeah.
And that stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
It sure does, especially when you consider the I think a lot of fans think, right, because these guys are professionals, like, well, you should just be able to step on the field and everything works. And it doesn't. They're all human too, right? Like, there is a gelling period that happens, and the best offensive lines, they practice hard on just the basics. Offensive line's a basic position. Like, I think a lot of people overthink offensive line. It's geometry and fitness class all meshed into one with humongous bodies at the line of scrimmage. That's what offensive line play is. It really is. And sometimes it's just that simple, Q. But people like to overcomplicate it or just fail to neglect the fact that you need to practice communication and timing. Just like every healthy relationship in the world, Q, right? We hear from everybody, you got to have good communication to be a successful couple. Well, I'll tell you what, you got to have good communication to be a successful offensive line too. And these guys just need to go on a couple dates, couple dinner dates, buy each other a nice glass of wine. They got it together. They had good communication during the week, during practice, and you saw it benefit today. They looked like the version of this offense I think a lot of people were really hoping for, especially in that Tennessee game against inferior competition. Just that good first game where you can say, look what we have. Instead, they struggled, and I think that narrative stuck with them longer than they wanted it to. Today was the first day I think they really gave a good case to shake that narrative and say, hey, we got something here. We're almost there, but we got something, and you saw it today.
Yeah, and there was one thing that they opened the game all screens, right? That was like infuriating. They're 3rd and 3, and they're running a tight end screen behind some wide receivers blocking. It was just like, I have no hair left, but I wanted to pull it out. Like, I value my hair, but I wanted to pull that stuff out because it was just, what are we doing? And then, like, thank God it turned around in the second half with better play calling, some downfield concepts, and some downhill running. But, like, early in the game, I was starting to wonder, like, is this John Shoop? Like, what are we watching?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think what stuck out most to me, Q, as I know we're going to move towards some of the great segments of our show, right? Favorite plays, keys to the game, etc. But I must say, I think Caleb Williams' pocket presence today was something that I take away from this game. Because, yes, he took a couple of sacks, and people are probably like, why didn't you throw the football? I give him credit for going through his progression, trying to get to the end of the progression to see if he can still make something happen. It's a growth period. I think so many people, Mike Greenberg on ESPN had a great segment about the Bears just the other day, about how it feels like the Bears repeat the same situation. Mitch Trubisky is in his first year, but it's the potentially last year of John Fox. The same happens with Nagy and Fields. Now the same happens effectively with Eberflus and Williams. It's getting that consistency, getting that development. The Bears should prioritize developing Caleb Williams over whatever happens to Eberflus as head coach or Waldron as OC. The only thing that should be important to this organization, if I'm the McCaskey family, I'm going to this coaching staff, I say you make sure 18 gets better over the course of the season. That's all that matters. You might keep your job as long as he continues to get better over the course of the season. Value his development, and we will value your job. And I think that's what needs to happen here, because time and time again, they don't let the quarterbacks develop. It looks like Caleb's getting that opportunity to go through the reads, be slow on the reads sometimes, just learn on the job. And they say, hey, look, our defense will keep us, in games early in the season. You learn and figure it out. And by week 10, when we really need you to turn it on and be Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, you're going to be able to do it because you had that time. Maybe, just maybe, Q. Maybe it's the vibe. Maybe it's just the Bears winning and it's rubbing off on me. The tank top, tie-dye Bucky's tank is out tonight. Maybe it's just the good feelings. But I think the Bears are finally actually pushing his development in the right direction. And I'm okay with being patient to see that development happen on the field.
One question I do have about his development. Do you think Matt Eberflus is in his ear about, if you miss long?
100%. 100%. Caleb Williams never missed those throws in college. And you and I have talked about this on a number of occasions on the side, just about how often, you mentioned it in watching film. We've talked about it with just basic highlights, right? Like, he throws beautiful deep balls. Like, he's a good deep ball player. Fields had the same kind of misses at times too, where he would fire long on guys. It's like, hey, give him a chance to try to go out on the defense, but don't always make it a 50-50 ball. And I think it's frustrating, I think, with how the roster is built, because you have Keenan Allen, who's a great route runner who shouldn't need 50-50 balls. DJ Moore being the same way. But Rome Odunze is one of the best 50-50 ball guys that's come out in the last 2-3 years of the draft. I think being a little more risky, especially with how good this defense is, wouldn't be the worst thing for this offense in the long term.
Yeah, that's where my head's at too. Because, I'm just – now, Grant, like the DJ Moore overthrow in the end zone, I felt like that one was like 50-50. Caleb put it a little too far.
Agreed.
DJ stopped his route at some point, and I don't know what the story is behind that. I'm sure there will be questions asked about that, but there were a few others where it was like borderline throwaway, and they might have been throwaways if we're being honest. Like, looking at, I remember one of them, it was a basically one-on-one to Keenan Allen, or it was a screen. And by the time you watched the one-on-one for too long, the screen was dead. So it was like, okay, I'm either throwing this away or trying to squeeze it in there. Or maybe it was DJ Moore. I don't remember which player it was. But and he ends up just airmailing it out the back of the end zone. I don't really think that, like, to me, that wasn't an overthrow. That was a throwaway. But there were a few where it was like, that just felt like an overthrow. And I just can't help but wonder how much your defensive head coach is saying, don't put my defense in a bad position.
It absolutely could be the case. And again, Q, I'm convinced if the NFL really wants to make money, you don't, tell people to sign up for NFL Plus and just have the coaches film. Hi, Dad. How are you? Bear down. You don't just have the coaches film. Like, mic up the meeting room. And maybe you don't share everything. Maybe it's an HBO series for type of thing for every team. But let a couple of the little insights. What did you see here, kid? Well, I saw this guy go this way and this guy go that way. And then right here on the laser point, yeah, that way. Keep it vague enough where, like, people just get that taste. Because that was one of my favorite things about being a player and being in those meetings, right? Mm-hmm. The full offense meetings. And again, you even as like a second string player, maybe you're not being asked questions during the meeting, but you can sit there and you can absorb the information. And it was always, all right, buddy, and Buddy usually being the quarterback, right? The OC loves everybody, right? Hey, okay, buddy, what'd you see here? Well, I saw him, this guy, yeah, that guy. And usually that guy's right. Maybe it's the strong safety, maybe it's the free safety, maybe it's the corner. SXU Cougars just got the privilege to call a game the other night. They were torturing these underclassmen DBs, so they threw a lot of go routes. It's, hey, what'd you see here? Why'd you throw to this guy on the go route instead of just taking the underneath when you were wide open? Well, I like the mismatch. Okay, that's fine. Let's keep it moving. That communication is so imperative in the development, the mental understanding of football, right? Like, people can break down film and hypothesize what's supposed to happen, but until you get the full story, you're still never going to be 100% correct. And I think that's the beauty of football. It's complex. Right. It takes a lot of analysis. I would cue the things I would do to be in that meeting room this week when Waldron and Williams break down some of those throws from this game, because I just want to be a fly in the wall. I don't want to say anything. Yeah. I just want to absorb everything, because it's fascinating to see how you start to see, okay, like you said, maybe it was just a designed overthrow because you say, hey, I didn't see anything there. Instead of throwing it to the sideline looking like we're truly giving up, at least giving my guy a chance. Maybe something happens. Maybe the wind blows. Maybe, you just throw it up there, but you put it a little further out of play.
Well, especially from the pocket. Like, it's not like he can just throw it out of bounds. It's like he needs to make it at least, a passable pass that's not going to get, intentional grounding on it.
Absolutely. Right. So you would him just rather overthrow everybody and live to see another day. That's okay. That's a good play in football. Football is chess, Q. And I think you understand this as well. I think a lot of football fans do, right? Football is chess. Sometimes you do just got to take the easy, move your pawn up one space and live to see another day because you don't like the move that you have on that turn. Football is the exact same way. It's just there's play calling and weird intricacies involved, and that's what makes it a beautiful game. I think that's the way this offense distributes the football when there's nothing home. It's overthrow your man when it's third and forever. Give him a chance. If he goes and gets it and does something crazy, cool. If not, totally fine. We put out the Aussie weapon on special teams and we flip the field and see what happens with our defense.
Well, and I mean, I don't know how many of those like overthrows you think there were. Maybe 4.
I would say about 4. That sounds about right.
Caleb only had 6 incompletions today. And 4 of them were those either like whether they be throwaway, whether they be actual overthrows. And I do think, like we're saying, some of it is the chess match of like, we're going to live to see another day. We're not going to give them a short field here, and we're not going to risk giving them a short field here. But that feels like a good day to me, especially when you threw the ball 23 times, average almost 7 yards an attempt, 106.6 QB rating. Like this is probably just on a rate basis, his best start of the year.
100%. And I think last week was the, hey, Caleb, we're down, so just go do something crazy and see if you give us a chance. And we got to feel that gunslinger mentality about Caleb Williams. I think everybody understood was part of his game coming out of college. This week was a little more calculated. Things were a little more dialed in. They had a better game plan, just objectively. You might not like Shane Waldron, but you can admit that this was a better game plan on the part of the Chicago Bears offensively. Sometimes that's all it takes for your quarterback to just be efficient. It's not going to always be pretty, but just like the 2005 Chicago Bears, they crossed my mind a lot today. A lot. They had a number 18 leading them at quarterback as well, and Kyle Orton. I'm not saying Williams is going to be that over the course of his career, but I think as a rookie quarterback and what the expectations were put on him, just like they were Orton in that season, the defense carried the team. The offense gave him a chance to win every week, and that's all you could ask for when you had a young and inexperienced quarterback. Doesn't mean the trajectory is going to be the same of the 2 number 18s, but you can at least – I'm going to knock things over, Q. But you can at least understand why they are designing the game plan the way they are. It's okay to protect your rookie quarterback. The Washington Commanders are 3-1 by doing the exact same thing, by giving him a simple offense and allowing him to use his athleticism. You don't always have to poo-poo letting your quarterback have a conservative game plan to just get you a W and start to learn something along the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think to that point, like I am glad the Bears are throwing more on his plate, making it a little more sink or swim, but I don't think that is a firm strategy all season long. You know, I think it's you pick your spots, and this was a spot where I'm simplifying it. Yeah, that was the way to go. But now that we've talked enough about the actual game, let's review our keys to victory on this.
Keys to victory.
All right, so our first key to victory here was about playing physical and assignment sound defense. In the pregame show, Ron, I think you put it just the defense keeps doing their thing, right? And so the way I put it in the article was, you know, the Bears have a clear talent advantage here. The players who play sound football with a physical mentality usually win the matchups when they win the talent. And that's what we were asking them to do. How do you think they did today, Ron?
I think they did great. I really do. I mean, you saw guys like TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds flying downfield. The corners were super involved in the run game on tackles, especially to the outside. It just felt like a cohesive, it felt like a true game at Soldier Field when it's a little muggy, it's a little cooler, and the wind's a little weird because that's just been the weather over the course of this weekend here in the Chicagoland area. It felt like the marquee Bears win. They played aggressive defense, responsible offense. They found a run game, but overall, this defense looked like they did against the Titans. Like maybe they didn't get the big, explosive, flashy, sexy, highlight-worthy plays, but they, at the end of the day, still got the same type of results when it's all said and done. And you have to applaud what this defense is doing. This defense is impressive. And Q, I think this defense can be better. I think next year we can be talking about this defense as a top 2-3 unit in the league if they add a couple of more upfront presences on the defensive line. That's what makes this unit crazy because they are flying to the football. They're giving the offense a chance, and it's really all you can ask for out of your defense in this type of season. They've done it exceptionally well.
So a letter grade on this one. You say they get an A for playing that physical assignment sound football?
I would say an A-, Q. I think there was things they could still do better over the course of a full season. I think they let the Rams still find their way back into the game in some form or capacity. Not saying the Rams are a bad team. I just think they could have maybe throttled it down and really kind of put the foot on the neck and the opponent. At the end of the day, though, they got the job done. You got to like what they did overall. Physical, fast, flying to the football. A- is where I would grade the defense.
I think that's fair. And our second key to the game here was KISS. Keep it simple, Shane. I love saying that like that. But so this one, basically I said, Shane Waldron is like a 16-year-old who just got gifted a fancy new car. You know, one of those cars that lets you choose stick shift or automatic, but Shane was insisting on using the stick shift. He had no idea how to drive stick shift, but he was insisting, and he couldn't get out of the driveway. Should have been cruising down the highway, but was just stuck there and burning out the engine. Now, so we were asking him, pull it back some, There's no reason this thing needs to be Peyton Manning level operations, and it doesn't need to be this whole big show. You're the more talented team here.
Yeah.
Just go out there, play some simple football, and win yourself the football game. Ron, how do you think he did with that?
I think they did keep it simple in the grand scheme, especially over what we've seen the first 3 weeks of the season. They made the throws probably a little simpler. They still gave Caleb autonomy to, hey, if you see something at the line and you want to change play, go ahead. It's part of your learning curve. It's part of your learning process. But at the end of the day, they kept it simple. I think they did truly keep it simple. I think that's a large reason why Swift was so efficient today, because the offensive line was just going downhill. And when you ask the offensive line go downhill and let your running back bounce off and kind of just make plays like that, sometimes you don't have to overcomplicate the zone game in order to be efficient in the run game. And they did that today. Power football works. If you have a bruising offensive line, a lot of physical players, we talked about Matt Pryor when we broke down the offensive line film earlier last week, Q. I think, that physicality can be good if you use it the right way, especially in this type of game today. The weather wasn't great. You had Roshan taking more touches as well as a part of the game. But even DeAndre Swift had a banner game today, 72 yards in the pass game, 7 receptions on 7 targets, and then 16 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Swift looked like a feature back in today's Bears offense. I don't know necessarily where it came from, but I think Shane kept something simple.
I think I have an idea where it came from.
Do tell.
A coach I don't know this. This is just speculation. A coach getting in his ear and saying, "Hey, you're about to start losing snaps if you don't become more decisive out here. You got to stop the dancing."
True. He was a lot more direct. And sometimes it's okay. You're not going to get 8, 9, 10 yards of play. That's just not realistic. But as long as you give yourself a chance, lean forward, get the extra yard or two. He's a smaller back, sure, but he runs with a downhill mentality. Those Georgia Bulldogs get the job done. He's got the talent. There's a reason they gave him the money. I know a lot of people are poo-poo on him. I've had my moments of being down on DeAndre Swift as well. But there is film there. You understand what he can bring to the run game when he is consistent. And you got most of that today because he was, it was power run game and he was decisive at his point of attack.
Yeah, and we have some questions here about any update on Tevin Jenkins' ribs if they're broke. And we have Gypsy Mike here saying he thought it was the wrist. I believe it was ribs. That's what I saw. That's what I'm seeing online right now, and I don't see any real updates online yet. I'm sure there might have been something from Matt Eberflus after the game, but I'm sure it was pretty vague.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to end up seeing, when it's all said and done, some type of legitimate update probably tomorrow or Tuesday, if we're being brutally honest. But again, I still think back on the conversation you and I had, Q, earlier in the off season about Tevin Jenkins improving himself this year and staying healthy, and like, this guy can't catch a break. You see him walk off the field, and there's that just sense of doubt again. Like, I think every Bears fan can understand and relate to that at this point. It's frustrating, but you hope it's only maybe a game. Maybe it's just a bruise, right? Like, you hope it's just uncomfort, and you don't want a guy getting banged up, certainly. And they have the depth, it feels like, on the offensive line. I think Pryor played fine on the left side once they went to a heavier power scheme. It is just almost demoralizing, Q, watching Jenkins fall off the field again, because this might be it for him if he can't continue to stay healthy over the course of the season with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and I mean, I had some people point out to me on Twitter, and we'll get back to that key in a second, but I had some people pointing out to me on Twitter that the offense started moving after Tev left. Personally, I don't really think there's a correlation. I think that was more play call type. Like, it was more they got more downhill with the run game after he was gone. Maybe they had to make it more simple because he was gone. That might have had something to do with it. You don't know how many snaps Matt Pryor has on the left side, how much he knows the duties over there, but ultimately, I don't think there's much bearing to Tev leaves and the offense gets better. To me, I think it's more just circumstantial.
Indeed. And Scott asks here, how did they change the line after Jenkins went down? He didn't see that part of the game. So for those that might not have, Pryor went to left guard. From right guard, Davis popped back into the game. So Nate Davis did play quite a bit on the right side today. And I agree with you. I think Jenkins is an athletic offensive lineman. I think guard is his best spot. I will still sit here and tell you, no matter how things go in the Ryan Poles era, one of the best decisions he made was moving Jenkins from tackle to guard. Because in the NFL, Jenkins' aggression will get him far at the guard position. And I still feel that way. Unfortunately for him, the dude just can't stay healthy when it's all said and done. And he's been able to use his aggressiveness. He's super athletic. Again, he played tackle. You got to be an athlete to play tackle. I promise you, people. You really do. He did it well, and I think they were able to be a little more, intricate, especially with double teams and things like that on that left side of the line. It's a little harder when you guys got guys playing next to each other who just haven't done it much outside of maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 reps in practice on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, but I agree with you on that. But getting back to the keys, Ron, what type of letter grade would you give them for that second key, the keeping it simple on offense?
I think they kept it simple-ish. I'll give it a B minus. I think it was a little more simple. I'm probably being a little bullish because I'm a little excited that they just won a football game. Truly, I think if you ask me in 2 days, I'll probably knock this down to somewhere around a C when it's all said and done. But
Yeah.
I'll give them a B minus right now. At the end of the day, you got the job done. You were able to put up points. This offense looked like it had some kind of run game in its favor. They had a 24-18. That's things we like to see when it's all said and done. If you're able to put up those type of points against a good Rams team, again, a Rams team that, despite being, a 1-3 Rams team, I don't think they're that horrendous on talent wise. I think they've had a lot of unfortunate events. Puka Nakua's hurt, Cooper Kupp, et cetera. I think a B minus is fine for now, but Q asked me in 3 days, and that might change just a smidge.
Yeah, my initial thoughts there were a C plus, and then I was like, they won. I'm gonna give them a B minus. That's so I'm with you there. I think a lot of the screen passes and scheme stuff early still had me shaking my head, and that's why I have a hard time going anything higher than a B minus. But what they did throughout the second half, that really from like the 2-minute warning on, that felt like it was exactly what we were asking for. Now, final key to the game here that we had was to break even on the coaching margins. And this was like the chess match, sure, that mattered, but it was more about personnel usage, down and distance strategy, play calling, timeout usage, 2-point conversion decisions, the stuff that is in the Bears coach's control, not even so much as their chess match moves with Sean McVay, because if you can't win those small things, you're toast in this game. And to me, I thought they did a good enough job on this stuff. Like, I wasn't scratching my head at some of the personnel decisions as often as I had in the past few games. Down and distance stuff felt fine. Play calling, like we just said, probably a C plus to a B minus. Timeout usage, I had some issues with down the stretch there. Like, they took a timeout while they were, and instead of taking the penalty on the punt. And it was kind of like, if Matt Stafford does something crazy here, you might wish he had that timeout still. But outside of that, I thought it was pretty clean. I mean, I'm thinking like a solid B here, but what do you think, Rob?
I'm going to knock them down just a hair, Q. I think it's a C plus. A C plus is a passing grade. It's respectable. I'll tell you what. I had a teacher in high school, and he put it beautifully for those that maybe didn't put up the best grades, but weren't stupid by any stretch of imagination. What do they call the person that finishes last in their graduating class in dentistry school? A dentist. At the same day, you are just as qualified as the next person that's called a dentist. Sometimes it's just that way as the coach staff, because at the end of the day, Q, I don't think every single coaching staff has an absolute weapon in terms of a queen replacing your bishop on the chessboard in Corey Taylor. We're going to get to that in a little bit in my excitement for special teams. But Q, I'll tell you what, man, that's just the name of the game. I'll give them a C plus. It's a passing grade. You got the job done. Congratulations. You passed your test. Now you can go into Christmas break and enjoy yourself for a month. And by a month, I mean a week, because they got to get back for another football game, which I will be at. And I'm very excited for, because we're going to be posting a lot of good content as well. A little shameless plug on the side there, Q. I'll give him a C plus. It's respectable.
I respect that. I think that makes sense. And we have Mike in the comments saying if they made it any simpler, they'd have to bring in dirt and draw plays out with a stick. So you mean what they're doing with Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, it might be. I'll tell you what. It was the same thing that the Oakland Spartans freshman football team was doing, Q. I got a little story for you there. There was a game where we were playing on a Saturday morning. Guys are in high school. Everybody's a little tired and overexhausted. When we come into this 9 a.m. game and the quarterback comes in the huddle, he goes, "Guys, I don't remember the play." All the offensive linemen looked at him and more or less drew up a play in the dirt and said, just run wedge at 2. We ran the old, double wing offense like the Georgia Tech back in the day. Wedge at 2 scored a touchdown, and the coaches were furious because we didn't call the correct play, but it scored a touchdown. So they were able to back off a little bit. Sometimes You just need to draw things up in the dirt to make good things happen. It's weird how it works like that, but that's just the sport of football. That's just sports in general, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. Now, to get to our next segment here, we want to talk about our favorite play of the game. So, Ron, what are you going with for your favorite play of the game this week?
I got to find the comment here, Q, because it's going to lead us in right to where I need to go. Punting is winning, Q. Punting is winning when Tory Taylor's your punter. This guy is unbelievable. I'll tell you what. In 2020, I started watching Aussie rules football because it was just the only thing on television. The games played at like 2 a.m. I'd record them 2 to 5 a.m. I'd watch them in the morning. And it was awesome. There's a lot of punting involved, and they were strategic punters. So when there's a strategic punter on the field of the Aussie rules, geological tree of sport at this point, Tory Taylor hitting bombs. Hits a 64-yarder. Have you ever heard a play-by-play guy get excited about a punt, Q? It's very few and far between. It happens every once in a while.
I've heard him disappointed.
Yes, they have been very disappointed in the past. I'll tell you what, man. Tory Taylor's a weapon for this Bears team. There's probably people out there on draft day that watched Ryan Poles draft a punter in the 4th round and giggle. No, I don't think there's anything to giggle about. It's okay to have a dominance. Special teams wins you games, people. It's not just a part of the game. Devin Hester was a cheat code on special teams. And right now, Tory Taylor's the exact same way. He will single-handedly, I think, win the Bears at least one game over the course of this season. Like full-blown, like you can look back and go, if he doesn't do that, I'm not sure they win. Today might have been one of those days where we're being brutally honest. So maybe when the season's over, we can look back and say, yeah, maybe we can, put that feather in Tory Taylor's cap. I'm going to say it right now. That was my favorite play of the game. There's a lot of good plays. We like scores. We like touchdowns. It's all good. Cool and tough when you score points. But a 64-yard punt that not only gets the play-by-play guy excited, but completely flips the field and effectively, kind of takes the wind out of the Rams' sails. That's cool and tough from the Aussie, Mr. Tory Taylor.
That's what he was drafted to do. On the day, 5 punts, average of 55.4 yards, and 3 of them landing inside the 20. Only 1 going for a touchback. Beautiful day from the punter from Iowa. Of course, from Iowa. Best player in Iowa football history, potentially. I'm sure Scott might have a thought about that. But anyways, for me, my favorite play of the game, we're talking in the second half. We're talking the Bears are driving. And Caleb Williams gets the ball under center, sees the linebacker cheat up. I don't remember if it was play action. I want to say it was because the way the linebacker stepped up, it was like Caleb Williams caught his eyes and he said, okay, layers throw. Beautiful throw. Right over the linebacker, right under the safety, right into the breadbasket for Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet just hauls it in through contact, through the tackle. Beautiful play. I think it was 22 yards. Just that throw had me excited of a young quarterback layering a throw between defenders over the middle of the field. That those are the types of plays that I can sit there and just love and watch all day over and over and over.
Q, I know you and I have both talked on this show before about the throw in Justin Fields' rookie year to Jimmy Graham against Pittsburgh. Down the field, almost very similar, just on the opposite hash. I think these are the type of throws that you want to just continue to see. And I think with the Bears, they got away with it in past quarterback developments. Keep letting those happen. Because like you said, Q, that's a hell of a recognition by Caleb Williams to know this guy steps up, right? There's the viral clip out there about Aaron Rodgers in the training camp practice when a safety cheats down into the gap and he goes, "You're not coming." And then he snaps the ball and he bails. He knows. They watched film. They have a game plan. Caleb Williams knew what was coming. And that's just a dot of a throw, knowing, hey, I've got time. It might be a tight window, but I've got time to make a big play here because you took yourself out of position. That's not only good film study, but that's a hell of a throw when it's all said and done to a guy like Cole Kmet, who making $11 million a year, you like to see him come up, especially over the middle of the field against bigger and tougher coverages.
You know what else you like to see him do? Nail blocks, baby. Like Mike's saying, Cole Kmet, he was blocking today, man. He was hitting his spots. He was a big part of why the run game actually was working, because he was hitting his spots, hitting his guys, and just like latching on. And so many times this year it had been, he's not maintaining. He's losing the block. He's hitting it a little too late, a little too early. And this year it felt like, or this game, he was right there, right on the money with it.
I think Cole Kmet truly understands what it's like to be a Chicago legend when you're from the city of Chicago. And he knows, he goes, if I'm going to be a tight end for a long time in the city of Chicago, I need to be able to block. He took it to heart today. That's the type of guy that like stays after practice and hits the sled a little bit extra to make sure he's got his angling and positioning correct. Good on Cole Kmet. Beautiful blocking day, a beautiful receiving day from him as well. He's really starting to prove himself as that $11 million a year tight end, not just a guy who's a part of the system or, the fourth or fifth option on the offense.
Yeah, agreed. He has really impressed me this year with some of his movement ability that I did not think he had in him. But his blocking to this point in the year had left me pretty disappointed. And I have to say today, I did not come away feeling that way. So big props to him on that. But with that being said, let's get to our next segment here.
The baddest man.
Ron Luce, who is the one player on the Bears that you believe the LA Rams walked off the field today, turned around, gazing over at this guy and going, it's a bad man right there?
There's a guy I want to take, Q, but I think you want to take him. And for that reason, I'm almost wanting to pass on who he is. We already gave him some love on the show. Well, at least foresee.
Well, so just so you know, I'm prepared with two. So I got a backup.
Okay. I also have a backup. So maybe I'll just share both, and I'll see where your head's at as well. We got an honorable mention, and we got the baddest man. The baddest man is Torrey Taylor. Flat out. Plain and simple. It's a bad dude. We were talking about it in the Bears on Tap group chat with our friend Sonny Verma. That's a bad dude. Like, he truly flips the field. There's very few guys that make an impact like that flip the field. Flipping the field is a big deal when you have a good defense, because you give your offense a short field to work with, and more often than not, the shorter the field position, the more points you score. That's just how it plays in football. Torrey Taylor's a bad dude. But I'll tell you what, a guy that I was very excited to see be a bad dude today, had a huge sack in this game. I think it's Montez Sweat. There's a reason you paid him all that money to be a bad dude on the line. I think Javon Dexter's ascent is helping Sweat and vice versa. I think if the Bears are smart, they can add another pass rusher, whether it's the draft next season or however they go about it. They should, because once you get this line moving and grooving, that 24.5 that you paid the Montez Sweat might be one of the best contracts in football for what he puts out as a defensive end in both the run and pass game. He looked like Montez Sweat of last season again today, and that's a bad dude on the other side. If I'm one of those offensive tackles, I'm going, whoa, I'm happy I don't have to see him the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so both those guys I'd considered. I thought you were going with Torrey Taylor, so he wasn't one of my guys.
Oh.
My number two here, and I thought about Tez, but to me, I was going Javon Dexter at number two, because that sack that he had in the first half, that felt huge to me, because the Bears had just given the ball back, and he was able to essentially knock the wind out of their sails and say, okay, this drive ends here, and just go knock them back. That ended the drive. It was first down, and they never recovered from that sack on that drive. They had to kick a field goal, I believe, from there. So that, and then in the second half, he rattled Matt Stafford. I thoroughly believe this. Javon Dexter hits people hard. Big man hits hard. Like, it doesn't always look like the shiny, like, oh, that guy just got crushed. But, like, there is a weight that Javon Dexter throws around out there that when he hits you, you feel it. And I thought Matt Stafford did not look the same the rest of the game after that hit that Dexter gave him in the second half, that he crushed him. He just crushed him. So that to me was big in this game. But even bigger, another guy who had a sack today. He also had 2 tackles for loss. He had a pass defensed that was almost an interception. And he had an interception to seal the game. It's Jaquan Brisker. We're out here tweeting. Jaquan Brisker is the man today. Like, he is the baddest man. that everyone is turned around going like, that's a bad dude right there. The amount of times that he came flying in to crush a runner, whether it was after a catch or a run, like, and that's, to me, that is Brisker's biggest value on a defense. He hits like a linebacker in a safety's body. Like that, people rarely move forward after he hits them. And so that alone is always a little valuable. The fact that he was able to get that sack, the interception, the other near interception that forced the Rams into a field goal, as Scott mentioned earlier, that baddest man on the field today.
Are we going to look at Jaquan Brisker if he continues to get hurt over the rest of his career like we do Mike Brown?
No, because they're so different to me. Like there are some similarities, but Mike Brown was such a ball hawk to me, and such a, like, if Brisker keeps doing stuff like he did today, like a game-winning interception or like a game-ending interception, then he could start to enter that territory. But I don't think he has the true free safety cover skills that Mike Brown had. So I just think they're a different breed. That's
fair. And I think Scott's onto something here. He says Brisker and Atwater have never been seen in the same room. And that's probably the better comparison. But I think what I wanted to really say from that standpoint was, like, I hope we don't have to ever say like what he could be. Like, I want to see him fully assume what we think he can actually be capable of as an NFL safety, and not play the what if game like I think a lot of Bears fans do with a guy like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a very fair point. Like, I mean, Mike in the comments saying he's got to stop hitting with his head. Like last year, he had concussion issues all last season. You hope that has passed him. And, you know, he throws his body around out there with caution to the wind, you know. So it is a little concerning, but it's fun too. So I'm sitting here going, I just like watching the dude play ball, even if I get a little frustrated at him sometimes in coverage. I do think there's real value to what he brings to the run game as a box defender, as a guy who can fly downhill. And, you know, he's hitting a guy who has 1 yard to go with the first down. That guy doesn't get the first down very often.
Agreed. You're not wrong. He's a bad man pajama.
Now, on to our next segment here.
The nicest man.
Now we're talking about the guy the Rams are going, you know, maybe next time I come to Chicago, this guy will pick me up from the airport. Maybe if I sign there, this guy will help me move into my new place. Who's the nicest man on the Bears today, Ron?
I think I'm going to piss a lot of people off, Q. I really do. I have a gut feeling about this one. If I need somebody to pick me up from the airport, it's the $110 million man, Mr. DJ Moore. I don't know what it was about that go route on the end zone where it felt like he didn't give 100%, that I wonder, and I go, what's going on? Is everything really that bad and out of sync? Like, what is truly happening behind closed doors? This isn't the DJ Moore I think anybody's seen in his NFL career. I don't know what's happening. But right now, the way he's playing, man, he's the first call I make when I need to be picked up from the airport, when I need my grass mowed, perhaps when I need to move the furniture from the main floor to the basement because we got new couches. That's the guy that I want to call right now. And it's a shame because I look at the receiving totals from today, Q, and I go, wow, 7 catches for your running back for 72 yards. Maybe just nothing was up and down field. But then you look at Cole Kmet and go, he was 3 for 3 on targets with 34 yards. That's cool. It's your $11 million man. We'd like to see him getting involved. And we like seeing DJ Moore score a touchdown. Don't get it twisted. You can still be a nice man and score touchdowns too. That's okay. That's acceptable. But just 3 catches for 22 yards. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the game plan. Maybe it's not DJ and Caleb at all, right? Maybe there is no chemistry issues. Maybe it's a play call and play design thing. But DJ Moore right now is playing too nice. And I want to see DJ Moore be that badass dude that we saw last season that put up almost 1,400 yards with largely no passing attack. If you look at the team's totals over the course, compared to the other, 31 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair one, and it sucks. And I mean, I do want to mention something that Mike mentioned in the comments here. DJ had some real nice blocks today. Like there was some nice stuff, but the dying on the route like that hurt. I don't know what's going on. I feel like there's something, because we've seen it happen with Rome a few times too. I almost wonder if there is some stuff with the coaching of like, this play is not designed for you. So just so long as you do this much, you're going to open something else up. But you got Caleb at quarterback. He might be finding stuff that might not necessarily be the play call, but he's saying, oh, but this is there, so I'm taking it. And it might be different page type thing.
Can we talk about really quick what Cam Newton said on his show, 4th and 1, with the Bears and that option call?
Yeah.
And his message essentially from the clip was, coaches, watch some film and like learn what you did wrong, because that's a horrible play. And you should never try to have a tackle reach a backer outside of an end, because that's just unrealistic at the NFL level. This is in college or high school.
Yeah.
To me, that feels like some of what's going on with maybe the receivers, like you just mentioned, Q, where Waldron's telling them, hey, just, it's a one and go. And maybe Caleb is just that fucking smart and says, no, there's a play to be made here. Don't tell these guys that. Tell him to run a hard route, because I might be able to hit him for a score if I like the matchup, between DJ, maybe it's the corner number 2 on a play, because they've seen it on film and they know it's going one way, versus a roam in a top corner. I think that's an okay thing to do. There's some disconnect. I don't know what it is. Again, I would do crazy things to be a fly on that wall, but something's going on and it's throwing things off. And I agree with you, Q. I think that's a real possibility.
And I do like that they were, after that play, Caleb and DJ were hashing it out on the sideline, talking through it of what happened. Like, I don't think that was bad. I think that was good to see happening. But I understand your decision here of DJ being the nicest guy. I really do, because that was tough to accept that moment. But for me, I'm going to someone who is much more predictable there, I guess. And I almost feel a little bad doing it, because it's like, it's a guy coming up from the practice squad, and it's less an indictment on him, more an indictment on the Bears roster building. But I'm going Byron Cowart.
Okay.
Byron Cowart played too many snaps today because you are too thin at defensive tackle. You could not stop the run because you are too thin at defensive tackle, and Andrew Billings can only shoulder so much of the load, especially when he's playing on a bum knee. Like, there were way too many moments where you had Chris Williams and Byron Cowart playing the middle of your defense, and the Rams were just licking their chops every time they got that, saying, we're running right at these guys. Like, who wouldn't? It's a real issue with this defense for me going forward, that you don't have. You came in the season with Andrew Billings, Javon Dexter. Love it. Good with it. Those two. Zach Pickens is your third. I'm okay with it, but you had no real fourth. And with the D line that wants to run this deep and run this heavy of a rotation, you needed a strong fourth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about Poles. Like, he took swings at positions that you absolutely needed to upgrade, but it still wasn't perfect. And sometimes that's just the crop of guys that are available, and you're not always going to be able to assemble the best roster in any given season, because it depends who's available and who you actually have the money to be able to go and sign or trade for. And you saw it with this defensive interior line, where Nick Williams is a guy they traded a 7th-round pick for. And I get 7th-rounders don't make the roster often, and Brian Poles trades them like they're Tic Tacs on the playground. But when you trade a 7th-rounder for a guy like that, like, it shows that you are desperate to get some type of depth, that are familiar with either the situation or what the scheme is, or at least understand their role, where they can come and give you some kind of value on a late notice, like a Williams did. I agree with you, Q. And again, I think a lot of people are saying it, from people I've talked to, people, that call into the radio, people that comment along with us. Like, you got 3 picks in the first 2 rounds next year. If it's not offensive and defensive line and all 3 of those picks, I don't know what you're doing, because really those are the only glaring weak spots, especially on the interior on both sides. And you saw it come to fruition today with guys like Coward playing way too many snaps, as you mentioned.
Right. Like, I mean, Chris Williams, I actually liked some of what I saw from him last week. He's got some nice burst, but he can't play nose. Zach Pickens can probably shadow a little nose because he has enough mass, but Byron Cowart, no, he doesn't have the mass, doesn't have the power. Chris Williams doesn't have the mass or the power. Like, you need, like, they just signed Travis Bell. I don't know, maybe he put on 20 pounds or something, like a former Poles draft pick, but like, you didn't have enough there You still don't have enough there, and you didn't do anything about it. And it's very frustrating to me when I watch this run defense and see them just getting gashed up the middle because Andrew Billings can only play 70% of the snaps, which is too much anyways.
And Andrew Billings is having a monstrous season too. Like, this is a guy that you can't look at the run game and go, it's your fault, because it's not. When he's on the field, he's a menace, whether it's pass or run.
Well, and that's what I'm scared of, though, that they're going to wear him down and he's just going to be gone the back half of the year. And then it's like, well, we can't stop the run now because we don't have Andrew Billings anymore. Like that, that's a real concern to me because we saw it happen last year. Billings got worn down.
Right. And it should be. And I think that's the one thing, right? Like, every young GM needs to learn something, and you don't learn everything in year one. And there's a reason these guys get 4, 5, 6 years to truly prove themselves, because it's not a job that you learn everything in year one. I think if you asked Poles what would he change about the offseason, it would be to add at least a little more considerable depth at the interior D-line position, because of how they've just been able to get gashed in the run game when your top dogs are not on the field on every single down.
Yeah, it's a real concern to me. But now that we're past that, Ron, we're on to Carolina. What are your takeaways from this week? And then we'll get to the game preview in a few days.
My takeaways, Q. I'm ugly wins are fine. I don't think this was that ugly of a win. I don't think it was pretty. It's not what everybody wanted, right? It's not the sexy 400-yard, 4-touchdown game from Caleb or anything like that. But you got the job done. A dub's a dub is a dub is a dub. You're 2-2. And Minnesota looks like they're running away with the division at this point in the season. Obviously, a lot of things can change. Divisional play hasn't fully kicked off yet, but they took care of the Packers. Packers fall to 2-2. So it's still anybody's division. And I'll tell you what, on a kind of a weird, cold, not even cold, cooler, humid, windy, just bullshit swamp Chicago weather that is just what it is in the fall, it was a marquee Bears win, and we'll take that when it's all said and done. Caleb looked better. He looked like he developed today, and that also at the end of the day is what matters to me. 2 wins, Caleb's development, 2 thumbs up from Ron Luce.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on a lot of those. My main takeaways, I mean, aside from my concerns about the D tackle room, which I've already, waxed poetic about or got on my soapbox car about, but they ran the football effectively. That's huge to me. That's big for this offense. It's big for Caleb's development. And we saw it in Caleb's development. Like he played a solid game today. I want to see some of these downfield shots start to hit. I was telling some friends during the game, like, I'm starting to get worried about the downfield shots. And they kind of talked me off the ledge with it, saying, like, there's a lot of data that says rookies are rough downfield, rookie quarterbacks. There's a lot of, like, Joe Burrow was crap deep his first year. Like, and he's not the only example. There's a bunch of others. If you want them, reach out to Start Kyle Orton on Twitter, and he'll be glad to tell you who they are. But
I have a hypothesis as to why, but continue, please.
Yeah, so that is a takeaway for me. I want to see some of those start to materialize because I want to believe it's Eberflus in the coaching, but it does worry me a little when I keep seeing it over and over and over here. But on the good side, the run game's moving. I'm seeing some stuff that I do really like from Caleb. That end zone throw was outstanding. The layered throw over the middle, and he had some nice short game stuff too that I thought he played really well with just the right patience to give Swift the room to find the running lanes off of it, and some funky releases off some of them too from some pretty vulnerable positions. So that was nice to see. I want to see it continue to build next week. I think this game was an improvement from last week, which is an improvement from the week before, which was an improvement from the week before. So I'm seeing him get better every week at this point. From the eye test standpoint, I thought his pocket management was really strong today. He did take the 3 sacks. I'd like to see that get cleaned up more, but it's hard to put. I think only one of those sacks I can really put on him. The others were just the O-line. Like one of them, Shelton got destroyed, and it caused Roschon to have to pick up Shelton's guy, and then Roschon's guy ran free at the quarterback. Like, there's only so much you can do when something like that happens. But I'd like to see the O-line clean that up a little. But overall, I'm feeling like everything is on the up for this offense right now.
I completely agree. And Q, I think something that people need to think about that maybe they don't think about, and I catch myself having to remind myself about the differences from college to NFL. the hashes are a huge difference. Now, people that are like, what's the hash? You know what the hash is. It's the little lines where they can spot. That's the farthest out wide they can split the ball. In college, you truly do split the field pretty considerably. In high school, it's even crazier. Like, you can have a short side of the field that's only like 5 yards, it feels like, when you're out on the field. In the NFL, the hash marks are within like maybe 4 yards of each other. Everything's from the middle of the field. If you're throwing deep into the sideline, it's the longest throw you're going to make on the field. And I think that's why a lot of rookie quarterbacks struggle, because it's just adjusting to how far you are from your receiver. They're split out further wide. There's extra yardage involved. And that timing takes reps to get consistently on a day-to-day basis. And that's why you see so many quarterbacks that are older be more consistent on the deep ball, because they just had that practice. It's the old throwing into the net in the corner of the end zone drill, but on repeat for 3 seasons until they really get comfortable with it. That's my hypothesis of why a lot of rookie quarterbacks struggle with that.
That's an interesting take, because you're sitting there going like, if you're a quarterback going, I'm at the left hash on the 30, I'm trying to throw this to this spot, I know how much arm this takes, right? Left hash to the opposite 40, say. And like, I've done this a million times. I know how much this takes. Oh shit, why'd I overthrow that so bad? Because the hash is so much wider. And it's a different aspect, and adjusting to it and finding that sweet spot. That's interesting. I've never thought of that, but I do think there might be some credence there to it.
I think there is. And it's crazy when you're so much further to the center of the field all the time. Anything to the sidelines is more threatening. You'll see it a lot in college. They'll throw those go shots to the near sideline because it's a shorter throw for the quarterback. Everything to the wide side of the field is things that are either in breaking or maybe screens, so there's space for your playmakers, things like that. There's a lot to be said with the hash placement from the college to the pros.
Especially for a guy like Caleb, who was willing to go opposite hash, opposite hash to, or from hash to opposite sideline. Like in college, that was not a rare thing for him to do.
No, absolutely. And I think even then, like, you need a lot of arm on the flip side, right? When you're wider to get it back to that other side of the field, because you might have a receiver all the way out of the numbers of the other side. In the NFL, you're overthrowing that throw because you think it takes more than it actually does.
Man,
there's more touch involved.
That clicks like if you put any credence in what Robert Schmidt says on streams. I watch his streams every week. I think he does an outstanding job. But something he said last week when he was watching it was, he's just over torquing this. He's putting too much in it, and he's trying to figure out that how much he needs. And I thought that was a weird thing to say, because it's like, we should know how much he needs, right? Like but that's what, probably the best Bears tape guy out there is saying. And that's what I want to believe then. And now that feels like a good reason why that's happening to me.
To me, that's exactly why it's happening, because it's a real difference. I challenge anybody that watches this show, go watch college highlights from the weekend of where the hashes are to pro. It is a considerable difference, and it might only be a couple yards, but guess what? How many yards is Caleb Williams missing by in a lot of these throws? Just a couple of yards. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's the ultimate difference when it's all said and done. It's just acclimation period. He's 4 games into a 17-week season. I find myself needing to respect baseball, again, being a part of Cubs on Tap, and understanding 162 games is a long season and a lot can change. Believe it or not, in football, a 17-game season is a long season and a lot can change. And I think that's how people need to start feeling with Caleb Williams, because he's going to get better. He just needs the rep and the repetition of acclimating to what is the NFL game.
Yeah. And then I want to throw Mike up here. He's been talking about Bagent the whole time. I feel bad giving him nothing. But, I mean, I don't think you're going to turn me or Ron into your Bagent side. I respect it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that I know better than you on that, but like I don't know if I'm going to be able to be turned to that until I really see real struggles from Caleb. Just to full disclosure, we got great commenter in the section. Want to give him a shout out there.
Absolutely. Hey, it's also early in the season, and a lot of things can change in a bad way too. I'm not saying it's always good. So Absolutely, we'll have to wait and see.
But we are on to Carolina. No more Tyson Bagent talk. No more Caleb Williams talk. No more anything talk except for the Carolina Panthers and their game against the Chicago Bears. We'll see you guys in a few days for it. Ron, why don't we get out of this victory show the only way we know how?
Bear down, baby.
Bear down.